Jan Miles, one of the two captains of the Pride of Baltimore II. I hope you're enjoying your visit to our ship and meeting some of our crew. The Pride of Baltimore II is a reconstruction of the Baltimore schooners that were the most successful American privateers in the War of 1812. Those privateers were privately owned vessels chartered by the American government to capture British merchant vessels. Their success led the British to attack their home base in Baltimore in 1814, and when that attack failed, it gave us the Star-Spangled Banner.
Looking back on that history, it was the sailing ability of those Baltimore clippers that was responsible for their success as privateers. First of all, they had to be fast enough to overtake and capture British merchant ships, which was the principal source of income for the owners of the privateer vessels. But most critically, the Baltimore clippers had to be swift enough to outmaneuver the powerful British Navy ships that were sent out to destroy American privateers, who were taking a significant toll on English shipping.
I'm Jamie Trost, also a captain for Pride of Baltimore II. Here you can see me sailing Pride of Baltimore II in a fresh breeze and imagine what it was like for her ancestors to simply outsail the British men of war that were trying to track them down. I've sailed numerous traditional sailing vessels in my career, but none combine the power, the speed, and the maneuverability the way a Baltimore clipper does.
The Baltimore clipper design evolved over many decades of shipbuilding in the Chesapeake Bay. They had a streamlined hull, sometimes described as sharp-built, and their schooner rig gave them the ability to point higher into the wind than the square-rigged British merchant or Navy vessels. In building the Pride of Baltimore, the details of those 200-year-old Baltimore clippers were carefully researched to provide the accurate reconstruction you're standing on. Over the years, we have sailed in many different tall ship races under a wide variety of sea and weather conditions, and it's clear that we have excellent speed and maneuverability even compared to modern vessels of our size. Much as we'd love to have you aboard when we sail, we realize that most of you will only be aboard when we're tied to a pier. So we've put together this video to give you a feel for what it's like to go sailing with us. With a well-trained crew, we love to put this boat through her paces and show the speed that was the key to Baltimore schooner's success when they became privateers in the War of 1812. It takes our crew quite an effort to raise that big mainsail up there and adjust it to catch the wind. You can see that we use the traditional manpower method involving pretty much the whole crew. And like everything else we do around here, it's about teamwork. Our big square foretopsail provides lots of sail area up high, giving us good power. But it's mounted on that long wooden pole we call a yard, and it has to be lifted to set the sail, so it's another hard pull for the crew. The other sails may be smaller, but one after the other, up they go until we've got the power we need to move the boat through the water. Setting that foresail in a good breeze gives us a quick increase in power, and it looks simple, but you need to come aboard and watch what the crew has to do if that's going to work smoothly. And once those sails are up, their shape needs to be adjusted to harness the wind's power effectively, and this means more pulling on control lines every time we change course or the wind shifts. When you've got a decent breeze and you're working with a big sail, it takes some strong forces to get that shape right, and we do it the same way those Baltimore schooners did it 200 years ago. Once all the sails are up and set right for the wind, the crew can focus on other duties while the wind pushes the boat through the water. Officers plot a safe course to our destination, and the crew takes turns steering, trimming the sails as conditions change, and maintaining sailing gear. Life on board Pride is certainly safer and more comfortable than life aboard American privateers in the War of 1812. But sailors are always aware that sea conditions can change quickly, and they have to be ready when the captain calls for all hands on deck. When it's time to shorten sail with an increasing wind, or at the end of a voyage, all that canvas has to be furled tightly so the wind can't inflate it, and that means getting out there and propping it up. Furling our big square foretopsail means going up there about 80 feet above the deck, sometimes with the wind blowing hard and the ship rolling. Once you're up there, you go out along the foot ropes under the yard to be part of the team lifting the heavy canvas so it can be wrapped up. You can see why old-time sailors called this handing, which was considered one of the essential nautical skills 200 years ago. We hope this video has given you a feel for what it's like to sail the Pride of Baltimore II. Our reconstruction was inspired by the successful War of 1812 Baltimore privateer named the Chasseur. Under Captain Thomas Boyle, the Chasseur captured dozens of British merchant ships in the Atlantic, Caribbean, and even in British home waters. When the war ended, the privateer's license to capture British ships expired, and the Chasseur returned to Baltimore. Upon her arrival, journalist Ezekiel Niles declared her to be the Pride of Baltimore, perhaps the most beautiful vessel that ever floated on the oceans. We're trying to reconstruct that too, and we invite you to come sail with us and see how we're doing.